Chapter 1. There is no food here. Meg ate all the sweetest fish. Please get off my horse. I believe in returning dead bodies. It seems like a simple courtesy, doesn't it? A warrior dies. You should do what you can to get their body back to their people for funerary rites. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. I am over 4,000 years old. But I find it rude not to properly dispose of corpses. Achilles, during the Trojan War, for instance, total pig. He chariot dragged the body of the Trojan champion Hector around the walls of the city for days. Finally, I convinced Zeus to pressure the big bully into returning Hector's body to his parents so he could have a decent burial. I mean, come on, have a little respect for the people you slaughter. Then there was Oliver Cromwell's corpse. I wasn't a fan of the man, but please. First, the English bury him with honors. Then they decide they hate him, so they dig him up and execute his body. Then his head falls off the pike where it's been impaled for decades and gets passed around from collector to collector for almost 3 centuries like a disgusting souvenir snow globe. Finally, in 1960, I whispered into the ears of some influential people, "Enough already. I am the god Apollo, and I order you to bury that thing. You're grossing me out." When it came to Jason Grace, my fallen friend and half-brother, I wasn't going to leave anything to chance. I would personally escort his coffin to Camp Jupiter and see him off with full honors. That turned out to be a good call, with the gulls attacking us and everything. Sunset turned San Francisco Bay into a cauldron of molten copper as our private plane landed at Oakland Airport. I say our private plane. The charter trip was actually a parting gift from our friend Piper McLean and her movie star father. Everyone should have at least one friend with a movie star parent. Waiting for us beside the runway was another surprise the McLeans must have arranged. A gleaming black hearse. Meg McCaffrey and I stretched our legs on the tarmac with the ground crew somberly removed, while the ground crew somberly removed Jason's coffin from the Cessna's storage bay. The polished mahogany box seemed to glow in the evening light. Its brass fixtures glinted red. I hated how beautiful it was. Death shouldn't be beautiful. The crew loaded it into the hearse, then transferred our luggage into the back seat. We didn't have much. Meg's backpack and mine, my bow and quiver and ukulele, and a bunch of sketchbook and a poster board diorama we'd inherited from Jason. I signed some paperwork, accepted flight crew's condolences, then shook hands with a nice undertaker who handed me the keys to the hearse and walked away. I stared at the keys, then at Meg McCaffrey, who was chewing the head off a Swedish fish. The plane had been stocked with half a dozen tins of the squishy red candy. Not anymore. Meg had single-handedly brought the Swedish fish ecosystem to the brink of collapse. I'm supposed to drive, I wonder? Is this a rental hearse? I'm pretty sure my New York junior driver's license doesn't cover this. Meg shrugged. During our flight, she insisted on sprawling on the Cessna's sofa so her dark page boy haircut was flat against the side of her head. One rhinestone-studded point of her cat-eye glasses poked through her hair like a disco shark fin. The rest of her outfit was equally disreputable. Floppy red high tops, threadbare yellow leggings, and the well-loved knee-length green frock she'd gotten from Percy Jackson's mother. By well-loved, I mean the frock has been through so many battles, been washed and mended so many times, it looked less like a piece of clothing and more like a deflated hot air balloon. Around Meg's waist was the pièce de resistance, her multi-pocketed gardening belt, because children of the meter never leave home without one. I don't have a driver's license, she said, as if I needed a reminder that my life was presently being controlled by a 12-year-old. I called shotgun. Calling shotgun didn't seem appropriate for hers. Nevertheless, Meg skipped to the passenger seat and climbed in. I got behind the wheels. Soon we were out of the airport and cruising north on I-880 in a rented black Wave Mobile at the Bay Area. I spent some happy times here. The vast misshapen geographic bowl was jam-packed with interesting people and places. I loved the green and golden hills, the fog-swept coastline, the glowing lacework of bridges, and the crazy zigzag of neighborhoods, and shouldered up against one another like subway passengers at rush hour. Back in the 1950s, I played with Dizzy Gillespie at Bop City in Fillmore. During the Summer of Love, I hosted an impromptu jam session in Golden Gate Park with the Grateful Dead. Lovely bunch of guys, but did they really need those 15-minute long solos? In the 1980s, I hung out in Oakland with Stan Burrell, also known as the MC Hammer, as he pioneered pop rap. I can't claim credit for Stan's music, but I did advise him on his fashion choices. Those gold lemon parachute pants, my idea. You're welcome, fashionistas. Most of the Bay Area brought good memories, but as I drove, I couldn't help but glancing in the northwest, toward Marin County and the dark peak of Mount Tamalpais. We got to know the place as Mount Orthrus, seat of the Titans. Even though our ancient enemies have been cast down, their palace destroyed, I still feel the evil pull of the place, like a magnet trying to extract the iron from my now mortal blood. I did my best to shake the feeling. We had other problems to deal with. Besides, we were going to Camp Jupiter, a friendly territory on this side of the bay. I had Meg for backup. I was driving a hearse. What could possibly go wrong? The Nimitz freeway snaked through the East Bay flatlands, past warehouses and docklands, strip malls, and rows of dilapidated bungalows. To our right rose downtown Oakland, its small cluster of high-rises facing off against its cooler neighbor, San Francisco, across the bay, as if to proclaim, "We are Oakland, we exist too." Meg reclined in her seat, propped her red high tops on the dashboard, and creaked open her window. "I like this place," she decided. "We just got here," I said. "What is it you like? The abandoned warehouses, the sign for Bo's Chicken and Waffles? Nature? Concrete counts as nature? There's trees too, plants flowering, moisture in the air. The eucalyptus smells good. It's not like..." She didn't need to finish her sentence. Our time in southern Southern California had been marked by scorching temperatures, extreme drought, and raging wildfires, all thanks to the magical burning maze controlled by Caligula and his hate-crazed sorceress bestie, Medea. The Bay Area wasn't experiencing any of those problems, not at the moment anyway. We'd killed Medea, we'd extinguished the burning maze, we'd freed the Arthurian Sibyl and brought relief to the mortals and withering nature experience of Southern California. But Caligula was still very much alive. He and his co-emperors in the Triumvirate was still intent on controlling all means of prophecy, taking over the world and writing the future in their own sadistic image. Right now, Caligula's fleet of evil, luxurious yachts was making its way towards San Francisco to attack Camp Jupiter. I could only imagine what sort of hellish destruction the Emperor would rain down on Oakland and Bo's Chicken and Waffles. Even if we somehow managed to defeat the Triumvirate, there was still the greatest oracle, Delphi, under the control of my old nemesis, Python. How could I defeat him in my present form as a 16-year-old weakling? I had no idea. But hey, except for that, everything was fine. The eucalyptus smelled nice. Traffic slowed at the I-580 interchange. Apparently, California drivers didn't follow the custom of yielding to hearses out of respect. Perhaps to figure at least one of our passengers was already dead, so we weren't in a hurry. Meg toyed with her window control, raising and lowering the glass. You know how to get to Camp Jupiter? She asked. Of course, 'cause you said that about Camp Half-Blood. We got there, eventually, frozen and half dead. Look, the entrance to the camp is right over there. I waved vaguely at the Oakland Hills. There's a secret passage in the Caldecott Tunnel or something. Well, I haven't actually ever driven to Camp Jupiter, I admitted. Usually I descend from the heavens in my glorious sun chariot, but I know the Caldecott Tunnel is the main entrance. There's probably a sign, perhaps a demigod's only lane. Meg peered at me over the top of her glasses. You're the dumbest god ever. She raised her window with a final a sound that reminded me uncomfortably of a guillotine blade. We turned northwest onto Highway 24. The congestion eased as the hills loomed closer. The elevated lane soared past neighborhoods of wind streets and tall conifers, and white stucco houses clinging to the sides of grassy ravines. A road sign promised Caldecott Tunnel entrance 2 miles. That should have comforted me. Soon we'd pass through the borders of Camp Jupiter into a heavily guarded, magically camouflaged valley where an entire Roman legion could shield me from my worries, at least for a while. Why then were the hairs on the back of my leg quivering like sea worms? Something was wrong. It dawned on me that the uneasiness I'd felt since we landed might not have been the distant threats of Caligula or the old Titan base on Mount Tamalpais, but something more immediate, something malevolent and getting closer. I glanced in the rear view back window's gauzy curtains, I saw nothing but traffic. But then, in the polished surface of Jason's coffin lid, I caught the reflection of movement from a dark shape outside, as if a human-sized object had just flown past the hearse. Oh, Meg? I tried to keep my voice even. Do you see anything unusual behind us? Unusual like what? Thump. The hearse lurched as if we'd been pitched to a trailer full of scraped metal. Above my head, 2 foot-shaped impressions appeared in the upholstered ceiling. Something just landed on the roof. Dedicated said, "Thank you, Sherlock McCaffrey. Can you get it off?" Me? How? That was an annoyingly fair question. Meg could turn the rings on her middle fingers into wicked gold swords, but if she summoned them in close quarters, like the interior of the hearse, she A, wouldn't have the room to wield them, and B, might end up impaling me and or herself. Creak, creak. The footprint impression deepened as the thing adjusted its weight like a surfer on a board. It must have been immensely heavy to sink into the metal roof. A whimper bubbled in my throat. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. I yearned for my bow and quiver in the back seat, but I couldn't have used them. DWSPW. Driving while shooting projectile weapons is a big no-no, kids. Maybe you could open the window, I said to Meg, lean out and tell it to go away. No. God, she was stubborn. What if you tried to shake it off? Before I could explain that it was a terrible plan while traveling 50 miles an hour on a highway, I heard a sound like a popped-up aluminum can opening. Crisp, pneumatic hiss of air through metal. A claw punctured the ceiling. A grimy white talon the size of a drill bit, then another and another and another, until the upholstery was studded with 10 pointy white spikes, just the right number for 2 very large hands. Meg, I yelped, could you? I don't know how to. I might have finished that answer. Protect me? Choose the thing? Check in the bags to see if I had any spare MDs. I was rudely interrupted by the creature ripping open our roof like we were a birthday present. Staring down at me through the ragged hole was a withered, ghoulish humanoid, its blue-black hide glistening like the skin of a housefly. Its eyes filmy white orbs, its bare teeth dripping saliva. Around its torso fluttered a loincloth of greasy black feathers. The smell coming off it was more putrid than any dumpster, and believe me, I've fallen into a few. Food, it howled. Kill it, I yelled out. Meg, swerve, she countered. One of the many annoying things about being incarnated into my puny, mortal body, I was Meg McCaffrey's servant. I was bound to obey her direct command. So when she yelled, swerve, I yanked the steering wheel hard to the right. The hearse handled beautifully. It careened across 3 lanes of traffic, barreled straight through the guardrail, and plummeted into the canyon below.